I'm Mat Kaplan, and it's going to be my pleasure to moderate a very distinguished panel. As you can see in your programs, we're going to be talking about the Artemis Accords. So come on out, folks. So rather than introducing everybody up front before they talk to us for a few minutes on their own, each of them, I'm going to go one by one and save those introductions for a little bit. And open first just by noting that the Artemis program and the Artemis Accords, we were just talking backstage, are often confused and run together in a lot of people's minds, and they are separate, of course. The Artemis program continues to evolve somewhat rapidly in recent days and weeks. And so one of my questions is, does that mean the same is true for the Artemis Accords? That's one of the questions that I hope our very distinguished panelists will be talking about. By the way, you may have noticed on May 15th, Norway joined the 54 other nations that are now part of the Accords. I looked it up, I think I got it right, elsewhere on our pale blue dot, there are now 13 countries that are part of the ILRS, the China-led International Lunar Research Station. Interestingly, we think that Thailand is the only one that is a part of both groups. Interesting position. I want to start our session with the guy who got the Artemis Accords off to a very impressive start. Consider 55 nations, and it's only a 5-year-old program. Mike Gold is now the president for Civil Space and External Affairs at Redwire Space. He supports the company's business development efforts as well as its government and media relations. Many of us remember him as NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Policy and Partnerships. He also served as Acting Associate Administrator for the Office of International and Interagency Relations. And in 2020, Mike was awarded the NASA Outstanding Leadership Medal in recognition for his work on the Artemis Accords. He's also an honorary counselor to the Hague Institute for Global Justice, which is something we will definitely talk about today with Sohair down at the end there. But Mike, I'm going to turn things over to you first to tell us about where you think the Accords are and how we got here.
Oh, thank you so much. And 55 is a wonderful number. I wish I was getting paid per country. I'll make sure to try to work that into my next agreement. And numbers do matter. That when it comes to international affairs, establishing norms of behavior, having that number of countries sign the Accords, which has really exceeded every expectation that we initially had, is important, because when it comes to COPUOS and when it comes to boats, when it comes to establishing traditions, again, norms, it really is just fantastic to see. And that success was driven by the inclusivity of the Accords, that we wanted to make sure that the Accords would not be something to separate countries, but to bring them together. We were very focused on common ground. And I want to thank Adnan here and United Arab Emirates, who were a founding member of the Artemis Accords. And I think it's safe to say, possibly more than any other founding member, the UAE really focused on making the Accords as inclusive as possible. That was something the Emirates really strongly brought to the table. And while the Accords were led by America, they really belong as much to the international partners as they do to us. And again, just a wonderful coming together of nations, ideas, and cultures to create something that will support peace and prosperity moving forward. That being said, there is always room for improvement. And I'm as excited about the future of the Accords as I have been the past. And where I would hope to see the Accords evolve is really in two ways. One, while I'm very grateful to the past administration for the support of the Accords, the number of countries that have signed, I have become increasingly concerned that we are beginning to deviate from one of the founding ideas of the Accords, which was for signing the Accords to become a gateway, no pun intended, relative to joining the Artemis program, that it was always meant as a first step to becoming a part of the program. Additionally, we want to see contributions from our partners, and obviously Germany, Emirates are making wonderful contributions, but I'd like to see us be more systematic and more explicit about gaining these contributions. And I think there are large countries like Saudi Arabia, Korea, with great capabilities that have a lot that they could be contributing to the Artemis program at a time when we are budget constrained. And while not entirely the solution, this could be part of the solution to some of the budget issues that we face. And then on the other end of the spectrum, a Ecuador or a Bangladesh that just signed recently, even if it's a couple of grad students, there should be contributions that they can make. The administration has been very focused when it comes to defense of Europe making significant contributions to NATO, and we should be doing the same in space. And it's an easier argument because the countries want to contribute. They want to participate. They don't want the Accords to be simply a photo op. They want it to lead to something substantive, and I think that benefits us and the Accords signatories. So that's a direction that I hope to see the new administration take the Accords to make it more substantive and to make it more beneficial to all of the parties involved. And secondly, the Accords are a beginning of a conversation, not an ending. And as we look at some of the principles of the Accords, particularly let's take interoperability, for example. So the Accords say that we need to achieve interoperability. We don't want to reach the moon and Mars and then have a VHS beta moment, right? I'm old, so I'm referencing VHS and beta. But I can't emphasize enough how important something like that is. I mean, I believe that interoperability eventually will save lives. And what I hope that we do, and UAE I think just hosted a Artemis Accords gathering, as we look to the future, I hope that we dig in more to create better specificity with the Accords and actually put meat on the bones of many of the objectives that we've laid out, such as interoperability, such as heritage sites. We all agree we should protect heritage in space just like we do on Earth. But what does that mean? Is it 1 kilometer? Is it 2 kilometers? So this is the work that remains to be done on the Accords. It is an organic and evolving thing as we try and push forward with these ideas. And I'm so excited for the number of countries that are involved, so grateful to the founding countries, and I'm just really looking forward and have never been more optimistic about the future.
So excellent progress and still much more to do. And by the way, Betamax rules.
Well,
clearly superior.
We can talk about Laserdisc, but we won't go there.
Right. Adnan, we've already heard you introduced as a charter, representing a charter signatory to the Artemis Accords. Adnan Mohammad AlRais is with the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. He is the Assistant Director General in the Center's Space Operations and Exploration Sector. And are you still Program Manager of the Mars 2017 project?
Yes.
For the UAE?
Yes.
Fascinating, very exciting, future-focused project with young people deeply in mind, right?
Right.
And let's see, I believe congratulations are in order because there was the launch of the UAE's first synthetic aperture radar satellite just very recently. And only a week ago, I saw the announcement that your rover, the Rashid 2 rover, is going to be carried by Firefly Aerospace's next Blue Ghost lander to the moon's far side. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you very much, Matt, for that. Thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure and honor to participate in the summit. I've been here for past 3 editions. When it comes to the Mohammed Space Center and MBRSC, we work on the implementation of the UAE National Space Program. We have the satellite development program, which we develop our Earth observation satellites. As you mentioned, we had earlier the launch of the Mohammed bin Zayed satellite, our next generation Earth observation satellite, earlier this year. And then a couple of weeks later, we launched our first synthetic aperture radar, our SAR mission, as part of our technology know-how transfer program to develop our capabilities and technologies in this area. In addition to that, we continue working on the implementation of the Mars 2117 program, 100 years of strategy to send humans to Mars and building settlement on Mars, and to do that collaboratively with the international community. And In order to do that, we introduced many programs, as you mentioned, the rovers. That's part of our robotics lab, which we want to develop our space robotics capabilities throughout the development of rovers to the surface of the moon and hopefully in the future the surface of Mars to support the entire infrastructure on the moon and Mars. That's a new capability that we introduced as part of our Mars 2117 strategy. In addition to that, our contribution, the Gateway program with the airlock, and we're going to talk more about that, that's also something in line with the strategy. Working as well with the Human Space Flights program, and having 4 astronauts prepared and ready for the follow-on missions, 2 flown for short duration and long duration mission, and 6 months, and looking for opportunities to send them around Earth and around the Moon as part of the Gateway contribution, and hopefully finding them on the surface of Moon and Mars in the future. We are also developing our life sciences program. Human element is very important when it comes to the exploration of Moon and Mars, and we have a team dedicated working on advancing our capabilities in the human health, how to sustain long duration missions, and working on the life sciences aspects locally and internationally with international partners. We have many other programs that we're developing, working a lot as well with education and outreach, which we find it an integral element in our long-term strategy. Yes, we have the programs, we have the satellites, we have the missions that we're working on it today, but it's always important to prepare the next generation of scientists, engineers, architects, entrepreneurs. We need them ready to continue this contribution. All of these efforts, all of these missions align with our involvement in the Artemis Accord and the overall Artemis program. Yes, we are developing technologies, we're developing capabilities, but the most important thing in terms of the capabilities, not only the technologies, yes, they are important. When you develop the synthetic aperture radar, satellites, and missions, and so on, it's important that will contribute in the architecture and implementation. But more importantly is development of the human element, the human capabilities, the workforce, the talents, the skilled people that will continue doing that, continue working actively in our contribution in the Artemis Accord. I appreciate the international support and collaboration, especially from the United States, and working closely with NASA and Mike on the Artemis Accord and being signatory there, and also an active member and implementing that, and continue working together with the international community on making this happen.
Excellent, thank you. Well, from a charter member of the Artemis Accords to representative of a nation, an agency that came a little bit later into the Accords, Marc Jochimé heads the Washington office of the DLR, the German Aerospace Center. It is Europe's biggest research center working in this area on aeronautics and space. In this capacity, represents the DLR not just in the USA but in Canada, I believe, which we are still an ally of here in the United States. He has held a variety of similar positions at the center prior to joining DLR. Back in 2007, Marc was a project manager in technology transfer and entrepreneurship, worked as a researcher at the University of Munich. So welcome, Marc.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the summit and be on this panel. It's a pleasure. And you mentioned it in your introduction. Germany came relatively late to the Artemis Accords, given its role in space exploration. We joined in September 2023. A very nice ceremony here at the residence of the German ambassador here in Washington, D.C. I remember it very vividly because it was a lot of work to get there. And the reason why we joined relatively late was that the German government in the beginning, and we were approached in the preparation phase to be part of this initial group to contribute to working out the accords. And I remember this meeting in the embassy as well. That was long before that, the time we joined. And at this time, the German government had the feeling that might not work very well with UN corpus and the UN processes, which we supported very strongly. Over time, we had a lot of good and fruitful discussions with our friends from NASA, from the Department of State, also with other founding members of the Artemis Accords. Our discussions with Canada, with the Canadian Space Agency, were very instrumental for us to better understand the real purpose and the real content of the Artemis Accords. And we came to this decision to join. And ever since then, we really are really happy with the engagement into the Artemis Accords. It's a great forum to discuss and deeper drill into the real questions of safer, more transparent and sustainable deep space exploration. We very much value the knowledgeable contributions from all the countries, and that everyone gets their part in the discussion and can volunteer for taking over different topic items and lead the discussions on those and bring it all together to the whole group. So, and also the interaction with the UN is very, very helpful, and we volunteered to be also a topic leader for that, to make sure the connection between the UN fora and the Artemis Accords and the information flow is going on very well. And so we're really happy with the Artemis Accords as they worked out. And so we are happy to see now being at 55 with the latest editions of Norway, and I'm very optimistic that they will continue to grow. And since you mentioned also the program, of course, our engagement in the Artemis program goes much further back than our engagement in the Artemis Accords. Actually, before it was even named Artemis program, the decision to contribute the European service model to or the Orion spacecraft is back then more than 10 years. So the first contract was given by the European Space Agency to Airbus in Bremen in 2014 for the first ESM, which propels the Orion spacecraft and provides life support and energy to the Orion spacecraft. And Germany is contributing more than 50% of that. So this is our biggest contribution to the Artemis program, and we are committed to continue working on that. I just had the opportunity in February to see Orion and ESM2 integrated in KSC, which is a very impressive spacecraft, and it's always fantastic and thrilling to know that the next humans that will go to moon and further out than any human before will be on this fantastic spacecraft. So this is something we want to continue. We also do smaller contributions to the Gateway. And of course, we have capabilities in Germany also for bilateral contributions, especially in the areas of space robotics, communication, navigation, and also we had a fantastic panel just here before on astronaut health. So that's something we are looking into and want to keep engaging in the discussion for potential bilateral contributions from Germany to the Artemis program.
Before we go on, the confusion in some people's minds that I spoke about between the Artemis program and the Artemis Accords, I think for some may also extend to the DLR's participation, Germany's participation in the Accords, and ESA, the European Space Agency. Can you say something about the distinction there?
Well, our biggest contributions, as I mentioned, to the Artemis program go through ESA. So ESA is contributing the European service module. Well, I guess most of you know more or less how ESA is functioning. The member states of ESA, they commit to certain programs. Some are mandatory, some are optional, and then they invest their national budget into that, and then they get their industry and their researchers and everyone get their share out of this overall program. And as I mentioned, for the European service model, which is a European element for bartering our ISS contribution, but also for sending astronauts to the moon, on the lunar surface eventually. That is more than 50% funded through Germany, and a big share of the technology comes from Germany also. So, but it's of course it's an ESA contribution to Artemis. So as a member state, we are I wouldn't say in the lead, but we're the major contributor to the ESM, but it's an ESA, European Space Agency contribution to Artemis.
And talk about an interoperability challenge, mating that service module to the crew module on Orion. So far, so good. Worked awfully well the first time.
The first time it worked even better than expected.
Yeah. While our topic is the Artemis Accords, you heard Mike talk about where he hopes the Accords will go. I suspect that our two national representatives here may feel the same way. There is an example of at least a piece of where the Accords could go in our last participant on this panel. Lady Sohair Salam Saber became president of the Hague Institute for Global Justice in 2018. The Institute is an independent nonprofit organization, and I read 3 approaches. One of them is the off-world approach that she has created, and that led to the creation of the Washington Compact, which, for those of you who were at that wonderful reception last night upstairs, right here, you saw several new signatories being honored, signatories to the Compact, who are here with us at the summit. She also founded and serves as principal of Wassel & Wassel, a disputes and geopolicy law firm. Under her direction, it has become a trusted partner in international disputes, investor, state arbitration, regulatory affairs, advising clients on navigating political risk, economic sanctions, and transnational regulatory compliance, which I imagine keeps your firm very busy at the moment, because there's certainly a lot going on there. Sohair, welcome and thank you for joining us on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today here. It's a pleasure being with you. It's an honor, and thanks for Chris Carberry to have us here and to have the reception yesterday for a new signatory for the Washington Compact. I always say that everyone agrees that I always confirm that I'm not from actually the industry of space, but it has been a pleasure for me to learn more and to be involved with this great industry and be part of it with the help of Mike and Ken and many others who really drive the Washington Compact to be in its stage today. So the Hague Institute for Global Justice pillars are 3 pillars, actually. It's rule of law, global governance, and conflict prevention. And since I became the president for the Hague Institute, we thought that our next decade for the Institute life will focus on future approaches and projects. And space was our first approach to start with as a new decade for the Institute. We wanted to make sure that our pillars implemented in space as well, because we understand the importance for space, not only for space, but also for the Earth. So if you prevent conflict in space, then you save the Earth and you save people, and same as the rule of law and global governance. And that's why we started to draft the Washington Compact. And it's dedicated for the commercial and civil society. I remember the first call I had with Mike, and Kenneth Hodgins actually was there, and we discussed what's the missing in space policies and regulations. It's the commercial, it's the industry itself who drive the future for space. And that's why we started to draft norms of behavior, non-binding document for the commercial and civil society. And because the beauty of the Hague Institute, the neutral position of our institute that can bring everyone from all over the world, from the globe, we thought that having the Washington Compact for the civil society and the commercial sector will bring everyone from all over the world to agree on those principles and standards. So 2022, we started to draft the compact, and really thanks for Mike and for Ken, who work hardly with us to draft and contribute all their time and effort to draft the compact. And by July, we launched the Washington Compact. We started to invite companies. I have to tell you, Matt, it was like really challenge because I'm coming from private sector, and I understand if someone call me and say, come and sign this document that you commit with those principles and standards in your operation, I will definitely say no immediately. So I really don't blame anyone who took time to think about the Washington Compact and think about signing the compact. And I truly, truly appreciate every single signature we have on the compact, because those people really, and those members who signed the compact, commit with saving the future of the space and saving their investments as well, because by signing the Washington Compact, by signing the norms of behavior and standards and principles, you are also saving your investment, your future, and your company, and your operation, and your organization. So for now, we're having over 200 signatories on the Washington Compact, which is really a milestone in just 2.5 years. It's still by invitation. And as I said, last January, it was a milestone for the Washington Compact to have the spaceports to come on board and sign the Washington Compact. We have over 20 signatories with the help of George Neal, actually, who worked with us hard also to promote the compact among the spaceports. So it's a really success, and we are very happy that we have this approach, and we will continue working with it. Now, there is really a link between the Washington Compact and the Artemis Accords. So the Artemis Accords, you have 55 countries who sign it, which is great achievement, and really great effort also from Mike and all the team to bring those countries to sign the Artemis Accords. But the Artemis Accords is for states and for countries. So still, the commercial sector and civil society is not there, and their voice is not there. So where they would be, and that's why we have the Washington Compact, which can complement the Artemis Accord and complement all other, let's say, also the other treaty, which is the UN treaty. But for the future, having the Washington Compact for commercial sector and for civil society will definitely be a complementary to the Artemis Accord future as well. So maybe that's the link between both of them. And now we have the states and countries, and now we have the industry and civil society at the Washington Compact. So that's what we have, and that's our approach. And I'm happy to be here today to discuss with you. And thank you very much for having me again.
Of course. We're very happy to have you. And I encourage everyone to go to the Institute site to see that list of over 200 signatories now and read the text of the compact, because I found it inspiring. Mike, I suspect you do too. And is that partly why you wanted to be part of this?
Absolutely. I mean, Lady Sohair had incredible vision and leadership, and let me live out my unfinished dream with the Accords, because we had a clock on us with the Artemis Accords and couldn't necessarily be comprehensive. And as Sohair points out, and again, thanks to her, Abdullah, Ken Hodgkins, as you mentioned, the challenge that we've got in international space law and policy is the system simply was not built for the current reality of private sector leadership. At the United Nations, there is no chair for the private sector, yet it is commercial space that is driving so much of the change and the substance. So we have a mismatch there. And that's where the Washington Compact and the work that has been done is so important, because through NGOs like Sohair's and through work like the Washington Compact, it's the first time that the private sector can have a seat, and a seat that's equal to government in determining the rules of the road. And that is necessary for success. The private sector has most, or at least much, of the experience, and bad regulations come when people who don't have the substantive experience are writing the rules. So again, I can't applaud what Sohair and the team has done enough. That is the future, I believe, of space norms, law, and policy.
Back to the Accords and the relationship with the Artemis program, which we can't really avoid the elephant in the room. I talked about how the Artemis program is evolving very quickly. And we have here representatives of two nations that have a big part in both. Adnan, the development of the airlock module for the gateway. Will there be a gateway? And if it does not happen, does that affect the participation of the UAE, not just in the Artemis program, but in possibly more broadly in the Accords?
Yeah, so first of all, we're happy to be part of the Artemis program with the contribution with the airlock module for the gateway itself. For us, it was an important program which helps in implementation of our strategy, but also to be a key player internationally, working with international partners to make this a reality and sending human back to the moon again and hopefully to Mars. For us, it's strategically important to develop also our capabilities in terms of the development human-rated systems. With all the missions that we developed, with the orbiters, satellites, rovers, and so on, and manned missions. So with the airlock development as part of the gateway, this is one of the strategic goals, to develop our capabilities in this area so that we can even further contribute in the future programs and future contributions. Yes, we understand the process, we understand the budget request that came out and potential cancellation of the gateway program. This is the process, again, we fully understand, we fully respect as well. It has to go through. I think it's also healthy as well to revisit your programs, to revisit your architecture and the way that you develop the missions. One thing that for sure, for us, that we are fully committed to work together with the United States and the international partners on the implementation of the program. With the gateway, with the airlock, which we hope that we're going to continue, and having the gateway is an important element. However, beyond that, we are here fully committed to look into the future contributions, future involvement, future engagement, because you have a lot of pieces there. You have a lot of elements related to the infrastructure on the surface of the moon, the habitation, the human element, and all of that. There are many areas that we are interested in and we can contribute in future program elements. So yes, the commitment is there, and this is the way that we work internationally with everyone. It has been always an integral part in every single program and every single mission that we work on. We work with international partners, so we're going to continue doing that.
Marc, I'd like you to address the same. What I have in mind, again, it's Artemis program. Orion seems to be good through Artemis 3. We're not sure about after that.
Yes, Adnan put it very well. Every program goes through development. So on the way, you need to make adjustments to stay focused on your target. That's normal. The whole overall Moon-to-Mars architecture by NASA is constantly evolving. There's a regular update every year with workshops and international partners coming in. So this is kind of natural. So in an ideal world, all the partners are on the table to discuss those changes. And like Adnan said, Germany stays fully committed to what we agreed upon to contribute to Artemis. And we want to be part of the program. We want to continue working with the US, with all the other international partners in Artemis. And we are ready to do so. And as you said, for Artemis 2 and 3, it seems we're sticking to the original plan. We have to see what comes after that, what alternatives are there, if we need to adjust the program, and how our contribution, which of course involves a long-term investment also on the European side for all the ESMs that are lined up and industry partners that have invested into that, how we can find a way to keep this cooperation going while having our common goal and target in focus and in mind to bring humanity back to the lunar surface, and of course to learn from all our experiences there and all the technology development we do there for the exploration of Mars.
Mike, I'm not even sure how to refer to the relationship between the two, but there's the Artemis Accords, and as I said, there's the ILRS, the China-led International Lunar Research Station, ILRS, yes.
Well done.
It's difficult to look at that and not see it as something of a competing program. How do you see the relationship between the two?
So I do see a competition of ideas. I see a competition of values. And I think it's important that we not just launch our astronauts to space, but we launch our values of transparency, of open science, of peace, of the ability to extract resources and enjoy the fruits of your labor, of avoiding conflict. I mean, fundamentally, Star Trek.
One to beam up.
And it's appropriate because the Artemis Accords do come from the...
You told me once that the Artemis Accords, in your mind, are the first step toward the United Federation of Planets.
Absolutely.
So why not?
We need one extraterrestrial civilization to sign on, and I can die happy. But we need to preserve these values. And it is important that we lead not just in technology, but in policy. And candidly, much of what is in the Accords is a reaction to things that some other nations may not have been practicing. So that's why numbers matter. That's why the more countries that sign, the more countries that create momentum and precedent for doing things the right way, the better off we will be. And even for countries that don't sign the Accords, like many of the ILRS nations, they will be influenced by the positive practices that the Accords support. So my hope, again, is that more countries will sign. We will continue to gain, more momentum, and that even those countries, again, that haven't become a part of the Accords will be influenced by what we're doing, and the Accords can serve as a catalyst for additional conversations like the Washington Compact that take these values further, more broadly, and empower the private sector.
Lady Sohair, that's exactly where I was hoping to go, that whether you believe that the compact, even though the signatories are not nations, also may help to set an example with this really important point that Mike has made about the Artemis Accords.
Yeah, it definitely set, because if you have the industry itself commit with the values, then those values took to sustain the industry, then you have the whole country already sustainable with the future of the investments in the country. For example, if you have uncertainty in the industry itself, then the investment will be less, insurance will be less. You will have the lack of going on with that industry will be bigger and bigger. So committing with values and with principles that sustain and make the industry itself more certain for the future, then the whole country will be more certain, and the nation will be more sustainable. So values are very important. As Mike said, we don't only take technology to space, we take also the value to space. We don't take only astronauts to space. We take the value with the astronauts to the space. So it's very important. Now you have a great competition between different countries who wants to set different programs, and how this competition will play a role, where the commercial sector will be among this. If I like what Ken is always saying, if you are a commercial sector and you are not part, or your country is not part of the Artemis Accord and not part of the Chinese program, then where you fit, it's a great competition. Maybe you don't feel it now, you don't see it now, but it will be in the future bigger. I still hope that, and it's great that we heard the National Space Council, the president is retaining the National Space Council, because this is a great indication that the administration is taking space into their consideration and account for the future and implementing more policies and regulations. I really hope that the United States keep leading the space industry, because the United States not only leading the technology, but also policies and regulations and rule of law. And they really prevented conflict for space for the last many years. And I hope that they continue this. With the news we are hearing now, with having the Space Council again in place, that's a great indication that policies will continue to be improved and implemented, which will help the commercial sector and help the civil society as well, because they needed that, and they needed the development to continue. So the Washington Compact implement all those principles and standards and values, and actually it's a draw from all those values and policies. So I still agree that the competition is huge. Actually, I was surprised to hear that 13 countries signed ILRS. So this is a great competition, and we need to work on it. And I hope that the Artemis Accord continue to be improved and to be beyond the Artemis program. Because this is really, as you said, Mat, this is a confusion. People don't really understand what's the relation between the Artemis Accord and the Artemis program. And I hope that the Artemis Accord, with the 55 countries now signed, to go beyond even the Artemis program. That's how you can improve it more and get the whole world together. Because it's the latest non-binding or the latest document to be signed with those nations. So it's great that it continue and it go beyond to more and more than the Artemis program itself.
We have about 5 minutes left. I do want to save at least a couple of minutes in case anyone has any questions. And I can't see it, but I think there might be a microphone for audience Q&A. If not, we'll have you yell out. But before we do, Adnan and Marc, I want to see if you have anything to add. Your hopes, your nation's hopes, for the principles behind the Artemis Accords, seeing them develop in the way we've heard discussed already. Adnan?
Yeah, so just to add, I totally agree with Mike. The Artemis Accord is the gateway to be part of the program and to get involved and to have also kind of a tangible contribution in any capacity, but also it provides hope. It provides opportunities for nations that are maybe not ready today to contribute, to dream, to work on that as part of their education outreach, preparing maybe the next generation that could play a bigger role in the program. I think it's important that the Artemis Accords is inclusive, having those great nations part of the Artemis is important. It's important as well to conduct those kind of workshops to identify clearly the contributions and how we coordinate the contributions between the different nations to reach that interoperability, which is a very, very important element. And here, we need to focus on the development of the standardization. Maybe there's something that we're lacking here in the space sector, that we need to further develop the standardization to be able to work together on development of the entire architecture.
Marc?
I can only second that. I was impressed how active, how outspoken some of the, let's say, non-traditional space countries that are part of the Artemis Accords engage into the discussion. And there was a lot of feedback from their side that joining the Artemis Accords and being part now of this group was very instrumental internally in their process to set up to gain more resources for their space activities. So this is something that's definitely an added value of the Accords, besides talking about the rules and the rules of the road and everything we want to solve when it comes to deep space exploration. So this, I think this is very inspirational, and so this should continue, and I'm sure it will continue, and therefore adding even more countries, and also those that are, as you said, cannot right now participate in the actual program with substantial contributions, is really, really worthwhile to do so.
Excellent. Does anyone have a question? There is a microphone now. If you'd like, make your way on over. We still have a couple of minutes left. We'll try and keep us on schedule here on day 2. Hello.
Hello, my name is Alexandra, and this is a question kind of for all of you. So I was very happy to hear that Ecuador has signed to the Artemis Accords. Both of my parents are Ecuadorian, and I am an unabashed American. But one thing that's been stated is that the Artemis Accords are kind of the first step for countries to begin contributing their own efforts towards humanity becoming multiplanetary. My question is, how can people like me, who are, second-generation Americans, leverage our heritage in order to improve the ability of, I guess, our parents' home countries to contribute to these efforts? Thank you.
Fascinating.
Yeah, thank you. It was a wonderful signing ceremony, by the way, in the Ecuadorian embassy. Bo Derek was there, which is a shock to me. You never know. And you talk about, Marc, the catalyst of the Accords. I mean, that's an example of even the signing ceremonies can serve as great outreach to youth and messaging. And I think, as you said, the Accords stand for hope. They stand for the future, that we can all be part of something optimistic and new and exciting. And in terms of Ecuador and the cultural heritage, one of the things that we've been talking to about Ecuador, both when I was at NASA and even at Redwire, is microgravity research and development. That the coffee, the chocolate, shrimp, I believe too, and forgive my forgetting some of the products in Ecuador, but there's so much that we can learn from micrograv and its impact on biologics, on agriculture, that then can be implemented. I think countries like Ecuador have a lot to contribute that is unique and can have real impacts here on Earth. The Accords, in the end, is a preemptive strike against conflict, but that step into Artemis in space is something that can make life here on Earth so much better for all of us.
We will go one more question, maybe 2. The chief scientist is here too, but first, someone who represents the future of our destiny in space.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, yeah. My question is, how do you think a Sputnik moment with the moon in China would affect involvement with the Artemis Accords and AlRais?
Are we headed toward another Sputnik moment? Are we already there? I'll turn to you, Mike.
So, great question. And it's interesting as we look back at history on this one, because a lot of us thought when China first launched someone into space, that would be a Sputnik moment. Or when China landed robotics on the moon, on the far side of the moon, that would be a Sputnik moment. And it's been fascinating and a bit disturbing to see the lack of reaction, that we have not had that Sputnik knee-jerk that one would expect. And again, great question from someone who's probably a little young to even have lived through some of this. We haven't seen it. And this is my great concern when it comes to China, that the US reacts very well and with alacrity to sudden events. But with the Chinese, it's a slow rolling development. And I talked about microgravity for a second. We talked about Artemis as moon and Mars, but it really begins in low Earth orbit. That if you don't have strong low Earth orbit capabilities, you're not going to be successful beyond LEO. And what do we see China doing? Building a new module for their space station, leveraging microgravity, not only for science, but for commercialization. We see them strengthening their moon program. And this is where it's death by 1,000 cuts instead of one Sputnik moment, and then it's too late for us. So I appreciate the question, and I hope that all of us are listening and that we react before that Sputnik moment occurs, because when it happens, it may be too late then for us to catch up.
So much for my promise to get us out on time. We're now 2 minutes over. Chris, do we let the Chief Scientist Emeritus throw the question? Sorry. Sorry, Jim. But You'll all be here, I hope, at least for a while, the rest of the day, so we invite you to speak to our panelists, and please help me thank them for joining us here on the H2M2 stage. Thank you, everyone.